Peace. Let's have a conversation on communication. Communication, the art of listening, the art of debating, the science of diatribe, which all falls under the umbrella of communication. On most occasions, when we have these builds, I'm including myself in the majority. Some things I'm still working on. I'm a work in progress. Other things I have got to a good space in terms of it. Haven't mastered it, but I've been working on it for an extended period of time, so I'm better than what I was. And I'm saying all that to say that I typically include myself in these majorities, these generalizations. So from my experience, when people having conversations, especially opposing conversations, it starts off as cordial, back and forth. On some occasions, not all occasions. It depends on if you're dealing with idiotic people, immature people. It can start off from the onset as ignorant, a diatribe of a bunch of nonsense. So again, the conversations with opposing views, you're typically citing percentages or where you can find the facts. That's what it appears to be. People like to say, and I use the air quotes, say they stating facts, whereas it's really regurgitated facts from somebody else that you didn't either seen and heard it from. It's not that they personally have did the footwork and did the research for themselves and cited numerous facts, right? And this is key right here, right in the first beginning steps of the video. So right from the onset of the video, I'm dropping jewels. In a nutshell, most people haven't even done the footwork, and so they just parroting, they're regurgitating what they've heard, something that appeals to their own beliefs and ideologies. They've been appeased, and so when they find themselves in a conversation of opposing views, they cite the rhetoric that they heard without being able to substantiate or validate what they're even saying. I too have fallen victim to such scenarios, but that was way back in the day because I don't want to sound idiotic or sound like a parrot. Because when you talking to somebody and having a small debate, and if they know anything about what they talking about, they can put you in a pigeonhole, not a pigeonhole. You can paint yourself in a corner and they can just poke holes in your whole debate, your whole side of the story. And then you get emotional. So when you see people having a conversation and they start off calm, cool, collected, and they're going back and forth and they're letting the other person speak, giving about 20 to 30 seconds per back and forth. And then one person find themselves painted into a corner, don't really have enough verbal ammunition to keep the other person off of them. So then they start doing ad hominem attacks and calling names and start just blabbering off because they can't stand on or they have nothing else to even talk about. But what they're not going to do is concede to the other side, or you're going to just paint me in some corner and I'm not going to say nothing, right? And for those of you who are unaware, that's being emotional. You didn't got emotional. Now, I definitely can say that, I didn't look at it like that. Or I need to go back and do some more research, because I'm not arguing to be in some physical altercation about nothing. It's immature, and it shows a sign of weakness. And more times than not, you're not going to change somebody's point of view or change their thought. Even if you do paint them into a corner, you're not going to change the way they're thinking. Especially if they find themselves emotional. You're not changing nothing. Y'all both just verbally jabbing, intellectually masturbating to get one to say, yeah, I see what you're saying. You won. It's not going to happen. Now, granted, if y'all know each other and y'all cool with each other and y'all having a real civil and cordial back and forth, then yeah, your homie would be like, you know what? You right. I didn't even look at it like that. It can happen. And that's what I have done in the past more times than not. Just being like, wow, I didn't think of that. People put their manhood or their womanhood on trial and they feel offended. Ego come in and take place, and then you get the babbling. That's why when we see these conversations, these debates, and we looking at it, you can easily see all the physical interaction, the uneasiness. One person starts getting irritated, they typically start moving their fingers or start moving around in a chair or start interrupting, or their voice get a little louder. All of those is telltale signs of I'm emotional as hell. And once that takes place, the conversation is all for naught. It's not even positive anymore. And what I mean by positive, I'm talking about the value in the conversation and both having takeaways from the conversation. You lose the value. Now it's just emotions. And if you're willing to go back and forth with somebody that's emotional, then you're getting your jollies in that instance. You're getting your jollies off seeing them emotional and call you names and twitching around in the seat and drumming their fingers on the counters and stuff like that. So I don't see a lot of value in going back and forth once it becomes valueless in the whole conversation, regardless of what the conversation is about, because we're not changing nothing. With that being said, there's absolute value in having those conversations and having those diatribes, having those debates. It's conversation. You learn to articulate, you learn to listen, you learn to pick up some words that you can take back to the dictionary and implement into your own vocabulary. And then you learn a different perspective on whatever you're talking about. And then you can go back and fact check the person that you're even debating with. So it is value only if you don't fall victim to the emotional aspects and lose your verbal civility. We've all seen people in a debate use big words unnecessarily, where you can tell they're not accustomed to using big words or words that they're not familiar with, and they use them and they try to sound educated. And then they may even use the word incorrectly. And if you correct them, you know, being emotional, they'll just come back with, oh, fuck these words. White people words anyway. You was just using those words a couple of seconds ago. Now that you've been critiqued and or corrected on proper grammar and proper pronunciation, now it's white people words. See? That's what I mean by you emotional. And now you just spewing bullshit out your mouth because you've painted yourself into that corner, right? We've all seen this take place. Wanting to be right is a cancer. Wanting to be correct is a cancer. The truth should be the overall goal. However, once that emotion take control, you just want to be right. And you're going to say any type of dumb shit to make yourself sound right. And you're going to just go back and forth when you just want to be right. And you sounding like a damn fool. One of my mentors, a wise militant brother, once told me that Sun Tzu said a good retreat isn't a bad stance. So I've adopted that saying. A good retreat isn't a bad stance. However, I looked through The Art of War, then read it dozens of times, and I've never seen that quote where Sun Tzu said, a good retreat isn't a bad stance. Even still, it could be a slim chance that I just missed it. But do I hold that brother to some lower esteem, or I don't hold him in a high regard? Absolutely not. Because regardless who said it, a good retreat is not a bad stance. So once you find yourself getting your ass taxed in a debate, it's okay to be like, let me go back to the drawing board, right? Let me go validate what you're saying, right? I don't need to be right just to be right. I want to be right, correct, and truth, not because I say it. Not because I say it. And I feel as though that's where the target is missed on most occasions when people are having these conversations, these debates. Now, there are some times when you do things purposely. It's a part of your tactic. You will say something to get under the other person's skin, even though you know it's bullshit, but you're saying it anyway. It's basically a calculated move to where you want to ruffle them, and you know it's nothing to validate. You're just doing it because you see the weaker vessel and you're debating them, so you're throwing them off their square. So that's different when you're doing that as a tactic. However, I don't think that's the tactic in most of these arguments where these emotions take over, right? Nah, on most occasions, just talking shit. And then it comes into a verbal dispute all the way up into a physical altercation, which is nonsense. Because once you bail yourself out of jail, once you put some witch hazel on a black eye and all that nonsense, you all sore, lip busted, you say to yourself, what the hell was I doing? And it'd be old ass people doing it, 40s and 50s, arguing and fighting over some nonsense, fighting over a Democrat or Republican. If you don't knock it off, fighting over the Super Bowl, the Lakers and the Clippers. Man, if y'all don't stop it, it's bigger fish to fry. A conversation is good. I already went over some key points that provide value. But to go over nonsense and to get all emotional over it definitely shows a lack of maturity. So in closing, sharpen your verbal skills, work on your emotions, exercise maturity, and know what you're talking about. And it's okay not to know. Just say you don't know. That's perfectly fine. We all are still growing. We still learning. So just take it what it's worth. So do me that solid. Like, leave that comment. Let's get a conversation in the comments. Subscribe, share. And let's continue to sharpen our intellectual sword and continue to be great. Appreciate y'all. Peace.